Let's call this meeting of the Town of Farmington Planning Board to order. And we will start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everyone. Few things: emergency exits for the doors you came in here and over here. There is a generator in case for some reason we didn't need it. Because of COVID-19, we do have one member missing, but it doesn't look like he's calling in, so we're good to go there. Please take all your cell phones, pagers, smartwatches, and mute them, please, or whatever, so we don't have any interruptions tonight. We will be holding the meeting in conjunction with the rules and procedures adopted by this board on January 20th, 21, as well as the Town of Farmington Town Board Resolution 326 of 2020 regarding remote attendance. But like I said, I don't see Adrian on the line, so he is necessarily absent. What was I going to say? Okay, when you're asked to speak or something, please use a microphone, and you can pass one around. Oh, we've got the dais up here for anybody that's going to present, because it helps for those that are on Zoom to hear. Trust me, most people can hear me, but certainly it doesn't always translate online. So, okay, next item up is the approval of the previous board minutes. Everybody get a chance to review them. Anyone have any comments, suggestions, changes? I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes. So moved by Doug, seconded by?
Second by Tim.
Tim. Any other comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Abstain.
Abstain. So we have 3 ayes and 1 abstain. Legal notices. Do we have any legal notices posted? No legal notices posted. So, order of business. First item up is PB 0701-21. Final site plan approval. ARGini Substation 168, located on State Street, adjacent to the village of Manchester. Who's here to discuss it? Come on up.
Let's angle this way for a particular reason.
No, I think it's just, angle it a little bit so we can kind of see things there, and there you go. That way people in the audience can see. Okay. I think
we might have to push the button. It turns off after so many minutes.
on the very top.
This one.
Green.
It did. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good evening. My name is Mary Stebline. I'm with Lobella Associates, and I'm here representing ARGini Station 168. I also have with me Meg Yoshida, who is an environmental manager. And I believe virtually we have Sarah Otero, who is the ARGini project manager, and Stacey Bartle, who is public outreach for ARGini.
Cool. Thank you.
So we are here for final site plan approval, and unless the board would like a recap of the project.
Just a quick recap of the project, and then we'll turn it over. The way we do is we turn it over to staff, and then we'll have more conversation after that.
Okay, so the basic components of the project is sectionalizing National Grid's 115 trunk line through the station, and providing some modernization features at the site, which will include a new control house, which is a pre-engineered metal building from Parkline that's 32 feet by 66 feet. There will also be an expansion of the substation yard, which will include new fencing on the outside of that expansion. There will be new perimeter work and building lighting. Also internal work in the substation, including grounding, conduit trenches. One of the major components is that we'll be relocating Old Castle's driveway, which currently goes through ARGini's property, onto mostly on Old Praxis property. In order to accommodate that, we're putting a new asphalt shoulder for truck traffic on the north side of State Street, although it will be shifted compared to what's shown on this plan per the highway superintendent's comments. We'll also be adding a mountable curb on the east side of that new driveway to prevent truck traffic from, and signage as well, to prevent truck traffic from turning right going into the village. And we'll be adding new street trees east of the National Grid right away along State Street. So it's kind of the basics of the plan. I just wanted to highlight a few things that have changed since I was here for preliminary site plan approval, and most of these are in response to the preliminary site plan resolution. We have included now dates about the field delineation that was completed at the site. We do anticipate a minor wetland impact of 0.002 acres for the installation of one of the transmission or distribution line poles. That would just be covered under Nationwide Permit 57. We have added construction details for the applicable commercial industrial drive section. So we do have a minor modification based on the engineer's recent comments. We added notes to the site plan about that were requested and provided applicable lighting drawings. As I mentioned, we added a mountable curb, and it looks like the other condition that we noticed needed to be changed from the previous resolution is now replaced by condition number 11 in this resolution, draft resolution regarding the commercial speech sign for Old Castle. So we intend to address all of those things.
Okay, all right, we'll turn it over to staff. Ron?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm glad to see that Stacy is able to join us. I know that there's been a lot of power outages up there in Arundecoit, Webster, that she's been busy splicing lanes together on. The only thing that I haven't heard about tonight is the landscaping issue along the frontage of State Street to the village line. You want to expand upon that, Mary?
And I'll just, sorry to walk away from the
Sorry.
microphone. We're currently showing the requested number of trees here, but we're going to spread those out and continue them here along the road right of way before the Manchester line.
So the same number of trees you spread out.
Spread out.
Yeah, that's the only concern that came up was rather than clumping them all together next to the overhead power right away or easement there that exists, that would prevent that, to spread them out and make it more presentable as you go into the village of Manchester.
Okay,
Thank you.
Dan?
All of our code issues have been addressed, either in the resolution tonight or by the applicant before tonight.
Okay.
We're all set to move forward from our perspective.
Cool. Done.
Yeah, the only thing I'm gonna add is, as we're spreading the trees out a little bit, if we started a little bit more so over the roadway that we're taking out as well, and then bring them up to the Manchester line.
So we are somewhat limited in that National Grid's right of way goes over that section of where the driveway was, and we don't know what the likelihood of us being able to put trees within their right of way.
I'll accept that as an answer.
Engineering, Lance.
MRB Group did issue a comment letter dated June 30th. I don't believe it was forwarded to you too recently. I apologize for that. I thought when we sent it to the town, I had CC'd it and it did not. So I believe our comments are fairly minor in nature. Most of them were relating to the stormwater report that was provided to us, just some clarification items. The one item relating to the site plan was just making sure that the detail for the roadway matched that of the town spec. I think that's the only important note in regards to our comment. Otherwise, I think it's pretty straightforward and looks good. So.
And the resolution includes a requirement that the MRV letter be addressed, so that'll meet that requirement. So. Okay, let's see. Anyone else from your team want to have any comments for us? before we turn to the board?
I think I'm intending to comment.
All right, okay.
For them.
We'll start out here with Sean.
So. I'm sorry I didn't get these to staff, last week, right? But this, truck lane is being shifted west. I mean, who's that for? Who's gonna use that truck lane?
Every truck that pulls out of that parking lot, we lose the shoulder of the road other way. The truck trailers, whatnot, when they come out of there, they swing all the way across where the existing driveway is now. There is that 10-foot shoulder, and they utilize every bit of it to exit the facility.
So it's not like a lane, a passing lane.
Not a passing
It's a
lane,
protected shoulder.
it's a solid shoulder for the truck when they're making their turns in and out.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm assuming there's, just on the site plan, there's some, poles and guy wires in the middle of the building. I'm assuming those are supposed to be on a demo layer and gone.
Yes, that's fair.
Okay.
They're existing now. and they're able to-
Yeah, because I was just kind of, it looks like you're replacing some of them, or some of them are going underground and what I was. Clarification. Then there's some, these section views. Where are those on the plan? So on sheet C402, I was just curious where those go through the site.
It should be on the grading plan. If they're not, there is something I can provide.
I may have missed that, but I can find an alignment for those. This is,
I believe they're only through the new, there's only a small part of the station that will be graded. It's only the area of the control building and garbage station.
so just for this, right? So there's two on this way and one going.
I believe so.
Not related to it, just those clarifications.
Okay, Doug,
I have a whole lot of this one, after seeing Lance's letter. I was going to ask for some of the stuff.
okay, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah, I think everything's covered in the resolution that's presented for us to consider.
okay, I also thought that everybody had asked all the right questions on this so far. Does the staff have any additional comments? Anyone have anything? Okay. The applicant has had a chance to review the draft resolution, and you're okay with the conditions?
Yes, we have a minor change that we, switch it up to a drawing number. that we
Okay.
clarified the time.
Okay, John, you got that minor change? Okay. So, anyone else have any other comments? Okay, I would take a motion to waive the reading of the resolution and approve it as provided with the minor change from the applicant.
So moved by Johnson.
Moved by Shumway, second.
Doug.
Doug, any other comments? Clerk, take a roll call vote, please.
Archie Malloy,
Aye.
Doug Beeks,
Aye.
Jim DeLucia,
Aye.
and Henry.
Aye. All right, you got her. Good to go. Thank you guys for coming in and enjoy. Next item up, subdivision PP 0702-21, final subdivision approval, Lewisburg Industrial Park. Come on up. Use the mic so everybody can hear you. Now, we're doing the final subdivision first, and then we're gonna go into the preliminary site plan approval with the seeker and have discussions about that. Okay, this is just for the subdivision, okay?
So my name is Connor Kilmer. I'm with DDS Engineers. Also with me is Bob Lyons from DDS. We're here representing Loomis Road Industrial Park LLC for a 10-lot subdivision. The existing parcel is a 32.8 acre parcel. We're gonna get it subdivided into 10 lots. From preliminary to final, a couple of adjustments have been made. One of them being we revised the previously proposed 80-foot right-of-way to a 66-foot wide right-of-way.
Along with that, the center lot at one point was shown as a remaining lands parcel. Now it is to be combined with lot 4, totaling 4.67 acres. And then the other major minor adjustment was the lot line between lots 9 and 10 was adjusted, allowing lot 9 to technically have a frontage width that could be either on Loomis Road or on the proposed Jetman Drive. So those were the major adjustments that we made from preliminary to final. We're here seeking final approval on this subdivision.
Okay, turn it over to staff.
Yeah, I drafted a resolution to approve with conditions the final plat. It's been sent out to the applicant, and I haven't heard any concerns about it, so we are combining lot number 11 into lot number 4, so that answers that question. And I'm glad to see that they've modified the lot line there on those 2 lots on Loomis.
And just let me ask a question while we're doing it. That means that they will maintain that detention pond area and that whole, so lot 4 will, well, again, because you're selling lot 4, so that parcel is going to be responsible for maintaining that inner area.
Correct.
Okay. Dan?
Yes, the applicant has worked with all staff on this and has addressed the concerns that we had at preliminary. And I believe the subdivision is ready to move forward at this point.
Okay. Don?
I'm good with this one.
Okay. Engineering.
Yes, and we'll be issued a letter dated June 30th. All of our preliminary comments have been addressed. I don't have anything additional as it relates to subdivision, with one suggestion, and this is kind of just for dialogue purposes. I realize the application is coming before us with a site plan application. If for whatever reason the site plan application fails to ever take form, take shape, and the subdivision gets approved and then gets filed, you have these lots. Well, there's a caveat in the DEC regs that allows for time to go through before the stormwater facility may not be required to be built if they came in with an individual site plan 5 years from now, let's say. So I think we should consider adding a note to the plans that says something along the lines of, as part of the first site plan application for one of these lots, a stormwater management facility designed to handle full build out of the project will be required as part of that first site plan. What I'm trying to accomplish is just the potential, as slight as it may be, that the subdivision sits, something occurs, 5 years goes by, and then you have a site plan application for one of the lots who technically isn't disturbing more than an acre. They may be able to escape underneath, or at least maybe not be aware of the stormwater requirements for this overall project. So I failed to address it when I saw the conditions come out. I'm just simply suggesting for our consideration, something to consider now and applying a note to the plans that would catch that.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll start with Tim.
I remember this from the discussion the last time, so I'm good with this. Yeah.
Okay. Doug? Yep. Good. Okay. Chauncey?
We're just doing the subdivision right now.
Just doing the subdivision right now.
No, I'm good.
The only comment I'm gonna make about subdivision is kind of goes as we go with each lot. You're gonna need to be able to make sure that you maintain green space on each lot. I mean, we understand the lot 4, we'll talk about that in a little bit, it has green space in the middle, which includes a detention pond, and we won't go into all that, but you're just gonna have to be really careful that you make sure that you put the right size buildings on those lots. Otherwise, you're gonna end up in the variance and the whole works, and we'll be moving lot lines, and so just be a little careful. That's all I have. Okay, anybody else have anything else? Okay, so we have a resolution. Did you read the resolution? Do you agree with the conditions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, We have a requested add of a note to the plan of what Lance said about ensuring that the stormwater is created.
It would be required as part of the first site plan application.
First site plan application.
And be required to be built.
Which
out.
in fact, we are getting ready to start processing tonight, but let's just say for some reason, it fell apart, and so yeah. So John, you have that wording, or you'll get it from Lance? So do I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the resolutions with the added condition of adding the note?
Motion by Tim.
Motion by Tim, second by Doug. Any other comments? Clerk, take a roll call vote.
Chauncey Malloy,
Aye.
Doug Beats,
Aye.
Steve Lucia,
Aye.
and Henry.
Aye. Okay, subdivision's been taken care of. Okay, preliminary site plan, and we've got site plan approval as well as a seeker resolution, proposed resolution on this, so. Let's go through the site plan now.
Okay, so we are here seeking preliminary site plan approval for the development of a vacant lot located on Loomis Road. The lot is 32 acres and it is currently zoned general industrial. We are proposing a 66-foot wide right of way. Within that right of way will be a roadway currently named Jetman Drive. The road will consist of concrete gutters and catch basins along the roadway. Throughout the entire site, the site will be mass graded to accommodate just about pad ready lots for each individual lot. Along the right of way, we will be installing 2,200 linear feet of 8-inch sanitary sewer extension, as well as 1,900 linear feet of 8-inch water main extension. Both of those will tie into existing services or the existing mains along Loomis Road. Also, within the development, there will be an internal storm sewer network. And each individual lot will have either stubs or laterals that will connect to the proposed sanitary sewer, water main, or storm sewer once each individual lot is developed. All of the storm sewer, the stormwater quality will be required to be treated on each individual site, but quantity, all the storm sewer will be redirected to the center of the lot, which will be part of lot 4, into a regional 4-bay and regional stormwater pond. So that is it for the entire development. When we discuss lot 4. Lot 4 will consist of 4.6 acres, a 12,600 square foot metal pre-engineered metal building. There will be a connection directly onto Jetman Drive. The parking lot will have 18 spaces with a proposed 24 land bank spaces. For the client's preference, they don't see that they'll leave that many. So we are going to be proposing land banking them, resulting in a total of 42 spaces. There'll be asphalt, everything will be asphalt with drive aisles. There's a loading area in the rear with a turnaround hammerhead for truck traffic, dumpster enclosure, everything is there. The proposed building will be serviced by all of the extensions for the water main, sewer, and storm. The building will be lit using LED wall packs. It will be LED and sky compliant. So I think that's pretty much it in summary for lot 4. I would like to just address a couple of the comments that we received from staff. All of them were pretty much we were okay with, a couple housekeeping items, but one of the suggestions was to get a special use permit for this particular use. We have been going back and forth on this for a little while because the client they wanted to be viewed as just a general business, but we have come to the agreement that we should probably go for a special use permit for a motor vehicle services. So we will be doing that between the time frame of now and final. And additionally, the landscaping for the overall development, we will definitely be ramping that up and taking a closer look at. So we'll be looking particularly behind to the south side of lots 1, 2, and 3, and also for lot 4, we will definitely be taking a stronger look at the landscaping.
Okay, now this is MTOD, right, Ron? Okay, I'll turn it over to Ron.
Okay, the only thing I haven't heard tonight was what we requested you to do, and that was to prepare an overall sketch plan showing the density of development of the project site, driveway access, so we could determine compliance with the MTOD spacing
Yeah, sure.
and whatnot. Do you have that?
Yeah, I do.
Just so the board's aware, the applicant did send that over to my department this morning. I don't know if it's on the shared file yet, but it will be for your guys' review. Moving forward.
And this was requested, so the board knows, at the PRC last Friday.
Right. The importance of this is that there is a provision in the town code when dealing with site plan. It doesn't include the entire parcel. You have to have a sketch of what the entire parcel could look like.
Right.
So that you can review it under secret. I'd rather get the entire site dealt with now and have to be supplemented at some point in the future.
Right.
Come back individually and deal with it on a fragmented or piecemeal basis. So to avoid segmentation, they prepared this plan, and perhaps you just want to talk about it. It's a sketch plan. It is a requirement of the code. We're not asking the planning board to approve it. We're just asking the planning board to understand what it does.
And we are not requiring the applicant to build to that spec. This is just conceptual of what could be. And I believe coming from PRC, we asked kind of worst case scenario type of thing so that we could just look at it from our requirement. So go ahead and just kind of give us a quick overview.
Right, so every lot uses the 12,600 square foot building footprint. We saw that it's fit given the area that we would be needing for the truck maneuvers in the rear of the building. We do have lot 10 shown to have connection onto Loomis Road, with lot 9 currently in this conceptual layout connecting onto Jetman Drive, but again, that could possibly be connected onto Jetman Road, frontage on both sides for code. And we are just connecting along Jetman Drive in different areas. Lots 1 and 2 have a somewhat shared drive aisle to keep a further distance from a steep slope connection. And that also goes for lots 8 and 9 to whatever you like the least steep option for a driveway connection based on the grading plan.
Okay. Anything else, Ron?
No, with that, we have the necessary packets that see over here to start the secret process, the coordinator review with involved agencies, and be looking forward to completing that and declaring yourself lead agency at a future point in time.
Cool. And those packages have that drawing in.
That's right.
Okay. All right, Dan?
Yeah, one thing before I go into my report, on this drawing that was just submitted to us, also on PRC discussion, shows percentage of green space, as the chairman was concerned with that. But it does maximize the building for seeker requirements. So as you mentioned, the worst case scenario.
Right. We did talk a lot about green space per lot. Lot 4 with the green space in the middle. Not liking it, but it is what it is, so.
All right, so back to my review of the preliminary, there was quite a few housekeeping items that I mentioned in my report that was sent to the board. It also has now been reflected in the draft resolution. There was also some heavy comments on landscaping, which I've talked to the applicant about, and they are going to be addressing moving forward, showing us a better plan for that. So,
Especially along the through, right?
Yes, so along the thruway, we do, this is, as you know, this is a very high area. So there's about a 15-foot or so drop from our property line to the thruway. And not only that, but there's a 50-foot wide gas easement there. And then we are making about a 3-foot cut to start our asphalt area. So we're going to be taking a look at that to see what kind of screening, methods we will need to be doing. But we believe as of now that there is a decent amount of screening as is. But we will certainly be looking at a closer profile view of what kind of landscaping they need.
Okay.
I also requested from the applicant to look at that, and I also asked for renderings for after your 30-day coordinated review.
Right. Cool. Okay. Highway,
I'm good at this point.
you're good at everything tonight. Boy, I tell you what.
It's a special seat.
This is a special day. I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket now.
And remember, we did receive the site plans. We are reviewing the site plan, but being that we gotta go through coordinated review, we just want to make sure we have time to give a thorough review and provide the company back. So I hope to have that out early next week.
Okay, Shanti. I mean, we still have to go through the 30-day coordinated review. We've got some time to look at all of this, but might as well give as much feedback as we can now.
Yes. Couple questions. You know what the cut fill volumes are? Is this, I'm just wondering if this is gonna be a site that brings in a lot of fill or if it's balanced. I don't know. Looking at it, it looked like there was a lot of fill.
Balanced at 40,000 yards.
Okay. And then the cut areas on the west side and then the fill areas on the south. The grading lines are 150. So it's kind of hard to tell, but how steep are those slopes?
No slopes are steeper than 103.
Yeah, nothing steeper than 103.
Instead of just 150, it looked pretty steep, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But that's good. I don't have much else right now.
Okay, so
Well, a lot of the landscaping stuff is going to be something to look at just with all the other options we have on that stretch.
Yep.
Something we definitely looked at, and even depending on some of the neighbors there. I mean, I saw a couple of comments that they've addressed. I like this one neighbor that had concerns. So I guess the only other thing I'd point out is it is in the MTOD district, and there's some architectural standards in that whoever's purchasing this or building that to kind of look at. There's certain expectations we're going to have for what the building looks like in those buildings.
Sure.
So those are pretty well spelled out there. You should become familiar with it because it can't just be our form.
Tim,
I have nothing additional.
Okay. I'm gonna make a couple comments. You actually have Myers here tonight. You can ask them kind of what some of the requirements are that we put in there for buildings within the MTOD. So you can actually get some good feedback on some of the different. So this client is a vehicle repair shop kind of thing.
Yes, they're a vehicle modification shop.
Okay, so they'll need a special use permit that's already been cleared. Okay, I guess one of my issues is when you show the lot, okay? Lot 4. Lot 4 consists of the center area as well. So you're showing a lot, but you're only showing the one piece and not the entire piece with the center. I just think people will get confused and forget that that centerpiece is part of that lot. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So maybe you show one of, this is the lot, or this is the lot in a sub picture, and then here we're breaking it out and giving us more detail on just that piece with the building on it. I just don't want people to get confused to think that that is the only part of that lot. So I know it's probably technical and most of us won't really care, but I think from an administrative standpoint, it's good to stay consistent and make sure that the lot means the lot, okay? Obviously, green space is important to us, especially within the MTOD. The MTOD requirements, you can just go right to the code, pull up the MTOD requirements and go through them and make sure you meet them. It's pretty simple. It's not rocket science. So I will leave it at that. So what we have, go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, there's just a couple of points I want to stress at this point. Number one is the planning board is going to have to make a finding that addressing this project as we are with just one site plan as opposed to all 10 is not segmenting seeker. And so that's something that we'll have to identify in the resolution. Okay. Secondly, you're in the MTOD. And because you're in the MTOD, there's a requirement that sidewalks be provided as part of the MTOD. Now, maybe sidewalks are warranted here, maybe they're not. I'm not going to prejudge. But if the planning board determines that they are not required, they have the power to waive that requirement, but they're going to have to set forth some good reasons why they shouldn't require sidewalks to be provided. So,
And if we did, we would still require easement,
right.
no matter what.
So those are two issues that I just don't want to take lightly. I wanted to bring out for everybody's awareness, and we'll be looking at them as we proceed through this. You might say that sidewalks in this area is something not necessary, but we are working with Bergman Associates and other engineering firms to develop a long-range plan for 332. And one of the concerns that they've identified is how do we deal with providing pedestrian access from this northern area to the southern portion of the corridor. And we do have a solution that addresses that coming out. So whether it's easements or sidewalks for employees to be able to walk around during the lunch hour or whatever, or nearby neighbors for that matter, that'll be something that the planning board will have to take into consideration.
And we've been fairly consistent on sidewalks, so we'll see where it goes. Anything else? Okay, we have a resolution for our intent to be a lead agency to go out. We'll have a motion to waive the reading of the resolution and approve the intent to be lead agency resolution.
Moved by Doug.
Doug, seconded by Chauncey. Any other comment? Clerk, take a roll call vote, please.
Chauncey Malloy,
Aye.
Doug East,
Aye.
Tim DeLucia,
Aye.
Ed Henry.
Aye. Okay, so we're gonna start the seeker clock and then we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you.
What I would say is a couple things. Continue to work with staff. This staff knows very well what we tend to like. Make sure you go to the next PRC and continue to get those reviews. I can't say enough about how important it is, again, you can talk to Marta, about communications. You need to communicate with staff. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, just one question. Do you intend to go to the county IDA for any kind of financial support?
No.
Thank you.
I do have one thing
Go ahead.
to add, that they will be, with a 30-day, it will put it to your August 18th,
Correct.
planning board meeting.
Correct.
I would also recommend that you work on your special use permit during that time, so.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get that in so we can review those.
We will be doing that within that.
Cool, okay. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again, and I know you'll be talking to staff and keeping them up to speed on stuff. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next up, we have Myers RV construction schedule update. And we have a resolution tonight on that. We can get some of the dates cleared up for you.
How's it going, guys?
Good, how about you?
Good. Jeff Burns with Myers.
Hey, Jeff.
So we ran into, this week, we were supposed to have the flow meter set on site, but because of concrete and because of Mother Nature, we're gonna be setting that on Monday next week rather than this week. And forming the sidewalks along Hortensia will be Thursday next week. And those are guaranteed dates. We have the concrete locked in and everything.
Guaranteed except for Mother Nature.
We're trying to go. Streetscape, there's 3 items on the punch list, and those will be completed within the next 2 weeks. Once completed, we'll have DOT rewalk it and get our sign off for the punch list. With the shell, we're going to be mobilizing with the GC doing the building on July 12th. The 19th, we're going to be starting the foundation. And the week of the 26th, we're going to be starting the electrical and gas install. We're going to be working from last Friday's meeting. We need to stabilize, we need to be more stabilized at the ponds. That will be done early next week. And then the only thing I had was for MRB with the SIU permit. You were going to follow up. And
I did, so I followed up with our office. I apologize for not pointing, but I did forward an email to staff that they have a meeting. I think it simply said that we're working through some stuff. And that at this point, there was nothing additional. I believe.
do I have to follow up? Like, do I have to follow
I
up?
don't, there was nothing in your report. I'll send you the email just to make sure, but at this moment, I don't believe there was anything that needed to be done.
Okay, all right, third over staff, Ron.
Okay, well, first of all, let me just say that if you have any problems with Mother Nature, okay, Lance has contacts with the meteorological services at Channel 10. Since she worked with him, internship, I'm sure that he can make any arrangements that are necessary.
John, speak careful your weirdness in the minutes.
Yeah, the members on Zoom too, man.
Seriously, I cannot thank Mike Meyer or you enough for stepping up and doing the right thing and taking this project seriously after all this time. We're very pleased with what we're seeing happening out there. We wish you the best of luck in continuing with everything. And yes, we know that Mother Nature does have control over everything, but like I say, Lance can make connections with you. She's a Farmington resident, so it's in her best interest to see that we get sunshine. Okay, thanks.
All right, Jeff, my first question for you is, I know you got the delay here with your sidewalk.
Yes.
Are we still looking at the 13th of August?
Yes.
Okay. As you know, the draft resolution rotates around that as a set goal, which I just want to make sure is still doable, which it sounds like it is.
Yes.
The next thing I want to advise the board is we have issued permits in regards to phase 2 at this point. I know that there's some discussion on that as well, but you heard Jeff make comments of where he would like to go and what he has already scheduled to keep moving this project forward. So I just want to have the board review that as well.
Okay, we'll talk about that for sure.
Besides for that, I think everything else is going well out there. Communication is still very strong, and Jeff still continues to come to our PRC to give us updates and updated schedules on a regular basis.
Okay, cool.
I'm not gonna say I'm all. The only thing I'm gonna say is, I do appreciate the way this project has been moving forward. It's looking good. I'm seeing a good, honest effort to move forward despite Mother Nature and a few little setbacks on valves and stuff of that nature. But the project is moving in the right direction. That's the case.
Good, thank you. Lance,
I found the
the
email.
controller of weather.
I'm being quiet on that.
Influencer.
Influencer.
I found the email and just simply put, at this point, we have an internal meeting scheduled for July 14th to run through a number of the permits that we're looking at for the town of Farmington. And then after that, it sounds as if, Mark Bailey from our office, thinks that we should be able to proceed to issuing a permit to you guys to getting the sampling underway. So you should be seeing a correspondence from MRB Group, CC and the town to you, sometime after the 14th.
Okay, great. I did want to say that Dan and I had some conversation that before we start the foundation, that we're gonna have the demo permit into you guys for the existing building. So that'll be to you guys next week.
Cool. Chief, anything from fire on this one? I mean, it's been ongoing and
Yeah, no,
we're in the getting it done part now.
any of this will be good.
Cool, absolutely, thank you. Okay, for the board, there was a question that we need to at least address, and that is, there's two options. Number one, we hold a piece of the fire, finish phase one, get that all completed, and then move to phase two. Or what certainly myself and some of the staff are proposing is allow them to begin phase two, the building piece of it, while they tie everything else up. I think they have shown great ability to communicate. Staff is comfortable with the whole thing, and I would hate to hold up the building just because we're tying up some loose ends on that. So I'll look for some discussion. We'll start with Tim on your end.
Yeah, I agree, to let phase two start, and continue with the punch list for one. I don't see a problem with Mother Nature. I got my lawn cut. But it's not as big a project as yours.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Doug.
I agree. I mean, they've been making good progress, and keep coming all the meetings. I really don't see a reason. I mean, any more progress we can get on the site is a bonus in my mind. I mean, you start the foundation, you're obviously going to finish that one, so I see no reason why not to.
And it will eventually get us rid of the old building faster, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Chauncey? Okay, so, and so I agree with getting it done, starting concurrently, doing it concurrently. It's a good discussion item. It's one we should have. It should be on the record so we know, so staff understands what we're doing. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, so if I'm understanding the sense of direction that we're going in, you want to modify the resolution that we have drafted.
Yes.
To include a statement or a condition that they are allowed to start work on phase two, the building portion of the site at this time.
Right.
And are allowed to continue on that as long as they continue to meet the deadline for phase one.
As long as they continue to meet that deadline. And so that one condition could be modified.
Well, the one condition relates to phase one being completed by August 13th.
No, it doesn't. The one condition in here says the applicant may not start work on phase two until site improvements in phase one has been completed and inspected and accepted by the town.
Okay, so
That's the one that needs to be modified that says phase two, they commence prior to the completion of phase one. That needs to be changed. That all the rest of the conditions, none of the rest of them need to be modified to allow that, correct?
And allowed to continue as long as the August 13th deadline is met for completion of phase one. Right?
Correct.
Right, okay.
I want to get that clear.
Okay, so you're comfortable with the conditions of the resolution? John, you comfortable with making those changes to that one?
I'll word it up.
You worded up, you're a magician. Okay, so do I have a motion to waive the reading of the resolution and approve it as presented with the changes we just talked about of allowing concurrent or allowing phase two to begin prior to the completion of phase one?
Motion by Tim.
Motion by Tim, second by Doug. Any other comments? Clerk, take a roll call vote, please.
Chauncey Malloy.
Aye.
Doug Beach.
Aye.
Tim DeLucia.
Aye.
And I'm
Aye. You got it, bud. Keep it up, keep talking. Okay. Next item up, Auburn Meadows, 7 and 8 and streetlight amendments. Ron, fill us in on this one here.
Okay, even though we had a meeting last time, the engineer for the developer was here and said that he didn't have any issues with the resolution as drafted. He later discovered that he did have some resolutions with those. So Don and I went out, looked at the sites, and I drafted a resolution for your consideration to amend a couple of the conditions. I think there's 3 of them altogether, number 7, 8, 9, to clarify what we're looking for in the way of streetlights and sidewalks and crosswalks and other things in sections 5, 3, and 7, and 8. So I think 7, 8, and 10. Anyways, I think we're ready to act on this tonight. Mr. Baker called me today and asked that he be excused tonight because of some other issues that he had to deal with. And I said I didn't think it was necessary for him to be here. I think the town highway superintendent should weigh in on this, just so you're understanding what we're doing here.
Right.
And that he and I have reached agreement.
My question to you is you're kind of quasi answering questions for the applicant. Does this actually meet the request, his entire request, or modify part of his request?
I believe that it would be 3 changes that meets the whole.
Okay, that was my. Right.
I don't have anything. I'm going to play Don's card because I think Don has stopped on this one.
As Ron said, I was stuck going out and around with him there, what I have to do to look at something.
Yeah, I hope you got paid extra for that.
Yeah. Some of the concerns were whereas there was streetlights on both sides of the road, with crosswalks and stuff of that nature. The placement of an additional streetlight was really not required, where you could simply move a streetlight up probably 50 feet, which would accommodate the crosswalk. There was another slight change in the sidewalk. He had it skewed on 45-degree angles and rather than a 45-degree angle in order to line it up with driveways across the road. We opted to put like a sweeping arch into it to meet the sidewalk, which quite frankly is better for snow blowers to try to clean the sidewalk to begin with. Other than that, like as Ron said, we went out there, looked around, any of the changes that he was suggesting did make sense, and we're both in agreement with done changes.
Cool. Anything from engineering?
Anything.
No?
All of our comments have been addressed. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with Chauncey. You have any issues with the changes?
No.
Doug?
I'm good.
Tim?
Good as well.
Okay, so we have a resolution to change those 3 requirements. Do I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the resolution as presented, modifying this, amending the site plan?
So moved by Chauncey.
Moved by Chauncey, second by
Doug.
Doug, any other comments? Clerk, take a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Malloy.
Aye.
Deeds. Trustee Lucia.
Aye.
And Henry.
Aye. Okay, Ron, you're up. Director of Development, open discussion.
Okay, very quickly on a couple of issues. I've been informed by Mr. Campitello that Delaware River wants to propose some amendments to the decommissioning plan that was approved by the town board at their last meeting. So when we get those changes, we'll send them off to the special legal counsel and see where that takes us down the road with, so that we honor those or not. The next item is, as you may have seen, Farmington Market Center is coming back. They have proposed 3 site amenities. I have been working with Lance and Dan and Peter and Don Giroux and Robin to address other amenities. We will be sending out a letter to the owner of the property this week, or I hope this week, if not early next week, identifying some additional amenities that we want to see, as well as setting forth some conditions of rezoning approval that are warranted, we feel, to mitigate potential adverse impacts. So,
Did they come to PRC?
yes, Mike Montalto was there from.
Because I was early. I missed them. Okay.
Yep, and he basically presented what he was told to present.
Has it changed much from?
Well, there's a significant reduction in the dollar values of the amenities being offered, because no longer do they have to put in a intersection with State Route 96. No longer do they have to dedicate a strip of land to the town for the future extension of town road to the south to connect up with the subdivision street down there that was part of the senior housing project. And there are other changes that have been addressed in one fashion or another. In particular, previously they had identified a dollar value for the landscaping, streetscape improvements that are now a requirement. So it'll be a very interesting dialogue that we get into. I think the biggest thing of concern that I see right now is that we want them to start using the Mercer Boulevard entrance to the site. And then we also want to see some pedestrian improvements on the site to separate the movements of pedestrian and vehicular on site. So
Good.
It'll be an interesting dialogue, I'm sure, as we go forward. Other than that, I'm still waiting to hear back from the consultants on the Route 332-96 corridor study. They had approached the state thruway authority. We're waiting to hear back from them. You will be getting an application in August for G&A development at the corner of 332 and 96, the Farmington Commons Plaza. They want to subdivide some land and site plan approval, and there are some issues there that have to be addressed. One of them is, of course, like we did tonight with the industrial park, we required that they submit a sketch of the overall site so that you could provide that information to the other agencies to look at. They will probably not require a traffic impact study for the credit union building that's going in. but they have been notified by the state that they will have to prepare one for the balance of the site.
And one of the issues we talked to at PRC was that the credit union that they're proposing, they build on one piece, wants to eventually own their own parcel. So that means that they literally have to subdivide as opposed to just putting different things on their property. So when they subdivide it, now they're gonna have to have variance. But so there's just a lot of different moving pieces as it goes through there. It's how that works. So, and of course, there's no entrance or no access to the back yet because that road's not coming down far enough to catch them. So there's a lot of interesting moving pieces with this project as they move forward, but they really want to move forward with this credit union piece as they have a client that wants that piece. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, that's basically it from here. We will get back to the comprehensive plan, I promise, shortly.
But we'll also probably get something on M3, always locked, that whole piece there. We'll eventually see something there.
Yeah, we discussed
Too bad Adrian's not here.
on Friday the site plan there, and if you recall, one of the things last fall you asked of M3 was to have an update by September 1st of where they stood with plans to develop the front portion of that site. And Mr. Sharon told us that he hoped to have plans submitted before then. If not, an update would be provided by either him or Mr. Colucci on the status of the plaza building and any parcels.
As well as care and upkeep.
As well as resurfacing the front area, making it mobile, and cleaning up the landscape.
Yeah, there's some moving pieces there. We had a lively discussion about that at the PRC. Just so you know.
Read your PRC minutes.
Yeah, read your PRC minutes. They might be entertaining this time. Yeah.
All right, your next meeting is July 21st. At this point, it is a lighter meeting for you. But when we get into August, those are going to be heavier meetings from the looks of it. I already know your first meeting in August has quite a few things on it, and we're not even to this middle date. So I anticipate both meetings to be quite a few projects on both. And as Ron just said about Farmington Commons, that's going to be an interesting one. That's going to be on your first meeting in August.
First or second?
First meeting.
Yeah, and that's another one, by the way, that we have attempted to, I guess we're gonna have site, subdivision and preliminary site plan at the same time. We know we don't really like to do that, but we gotta go into seeker anyway, so we'll be pushing the preliminary site plan off till we get seeker anyway, so.
And there's variances.
And there's variances involved in that, and they will want the ZBA will want our input on it, so.
Yeah. So that be looking for that information. That's going to take some time to review. So any input from the board early on that one would be great.
Yeah, especially that one, the Farmington Commons one. We're looking for your input before, like on Sunday or Monday early, so that they can get the right pieces. Now, knowing that we still have to go through the seeker and all that, but they'll want some feedback to staff. So try to take some time to at least look at that one. Good. So, okay.
All right. And then my last thing I would like to report is, and one of the reasons Augie is here tonight is I will not be at your next meeting. So he will be covering for me for codes, and he will also be running the Zoom to your next meeting as well. So
Cool. All right, Augie.
that's all I have for tonight.
You need to make sure the weather is okay.
You got nothing else? Okay, we understand.
I'll just reiterate what Ron said with that streets landscaping. That is an interesting read. You really want to look at the PRC maps. As for the highway department, we're kind of on a shared services working right now We've got our oil and stone working on taking off. We've got some fiber mat to go in place, some millings and paving, and this is all, we're gonna try to get it in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm gonna put a word into that meteorologist. For some nice weather. As per the, as I said, we were doing shared services. I got some trucks working in Victor. I'm short of staff to start with. I got guys still extending their 4th of July vacation. So we're doing things such as working through Farmington right now. Some of the branches and the trees have gotten to the point where they are extending out into the road. This is a good point for you folks to, as we move forward with developments and plans and placement of these trees out next to the road. I know we want to put trees in the front yard, but when they start getting next to the road, we got guys in there trimming. Fire trucks can't get through there without hitting on the branches and whatnot. Moving trucks, plow trucks, sweepers. So we're trimming branches back to the gutter line, and that is making some people not extremely happy, but it's a necessary evil to maintain and pay emergency services as well as any other services and new calls and whatnot. So we will be going through all subdivisions, and that's got a tree in its front yard. We will trim that one way back.
There you go. Yeah. Engineering land.
Not much to offer. We did, MRB group just finished up wrapping up, I believe, the zoning map, delivered that today. The USB drive and all that. I do owe the town an email, just making sure that the PDF gets published on the website so that it's accessible. There's some pretty good modifications to that plan. The highway map, we have new highway maps for the town. Those been delivered. And then lastly, we've been working on the sidewalk master plan for the town, which also has been completed. A lot of mapping, that's finally, I think, wrapped up, and we're moving on to other stormwater related items coming up.
Cool, thanks.
Mapping is only rounded up as long as they keep it away from round.
Ron, what do you got, bud?
I was just going to add to that, that one of the things that will be hopefully on the agenda next time, since we have a little time, is to take a hard look at this sidewalk trail master plan map that Lance and Dan and I
Sure.
and Don have been working on. We're trying to get everything put together so that hopefully this fall, when they make the announcements on the TAP grants again, which is anticipated with the Transportation Alternative Program, that we have a very solid application this time to put in some of the missing links that we have here in town.
Cool, thanks.
Dan,
go ahead.
Sorry, I did forget to mention that I also will be seriously on that week as well. So Colin will be here in my absence, which
Hey, I'll be Dan and I and Don, we'll get it taken care of.
I'm going Kelly.
Well,
I can send the weather girl.
And Adrian will still be gone next time.
I do have one other thing to report on that is very hot off the press. The records management grant that we've been waiting to hear about awarding was awarded, and the town did receive the grant award. So for the building department, we're able to, it was a scanning grant. So it won't scan all of our files, but it will put a very large chunk of the property files all digitally in our office.
Cool.
Emily didn't send that to me, so you must have been actually.
Chief, anything?
No, I will put my 2 cents in Mother Nature for the thorn in our side. Obviously, we have to do heat, and thankfully it's not bad. And the storms that we've been having have created the calls in years past. Haven't had to pump a basement.
Yeah.
Said if we did, somebody did it on their own. So it's, you know, we're busy, but you know, we've been third the last couple weeks of crappy weather, and I put in a request to see workers. We're gonna basically go out and anything, so it doesn't.
There you go, you're gonna do it in these days. Do you have any idea when we might see the plans for the upgraded fire station?
Yeah, I don't know. Because
I mean, that's a fair.
I won't talk out of school, but what I will say is I will light the fire and make sure that they are aware that they're still looking to see whatever they have. So,
Well, I mean, I don't know what the requirements are, but I don't think, can they just go ahead and build stuff without our approval? So they have to understand, they won't, but they have to understand that there's a process. And once they start that process, it's not something that happens overnight. They can't come in here one weekend and say, okay, we're gonna start building the next. It just doesn't happen that way. And they're gonna come in here all upset because it's gonna take us a month and a half to 2 months to get on the agenda. We gotta do seeker, and then we gotta go through preliminary and final. It's gonna take 3 to 6 months in a good application. I mean,
No, that's right on.
I don't think they understand that there is a process that just because they agree to it and it's done, that they can move forward.
well, the biggest step or hurdle they're dealing with now is financing.
Well,
And have been going all over the place to see if it can be feasibly done. And what I'm aware of in a couple of the meetings I've sat in on, that's the big issue. Is it something that maybe maybe ought to start thinking about doing something at the present station too, or apply land somewhere else, but it's a considerable amount of money and it just, we can't put ourselves in the hole so we can have a Taj Mahal on our side lawn. And that's where they're at right now. I don't even think they thought, I mean, there is plans, there are ideas, and I think they're aware of it. I mean, I certainly have mentioned it, but, put water on the fire, that's about it. But the idea is that there is some kind of plan, but I don't think they've got to that point. I think they're still trying to see, is it something smart to do, or do we renovate the other station and maybe add another bay or something? So that's kind of, and I may know a little more. I think that's where they're at, and our president has been doing a lot of legwork with our treasurer to see what's available, how we can fund this. And
I just vision this coming in, all of a sudden they find the funding, heaven forbid,
I don't think it's that.
and all of a sudden they come in and go, we want it tomorrow, and
They're not ready at that stage yet.
Okay.
They put together a dream fire station, if you will.
That's always the first step.
The realism of the cost of the fire station that they were looking at was very cruel. The fact that the fire department cannot afford that. At this point, they are revisiting their plans and seeing what do we actually need, what can we afford, and so they are not in a stage where they are ready to present anything to either the PRC or the planning boards.
I just don't want to run into and get them all upset, and all of a sudden they start calling the supervisor and this and that, because it's not going to change the requirements, not going to change the time frame, and it's not something that can be done literally in a few weeks.
No, and I think, and they're aware of that. I mean, it's just, I know you've been left out in the dark a little because you hadn't heard anything.
I guess.
Like Don said, they haven't gotten to that point. They're trying to figure out, do we push on our coffer to go ahead? And that's not a smart move, so they're still working at that.
Okay, well, just as they start moving on, just keep them, give them a reality check.
I'll be the thorn.
Okay, there you go.
I know what the process is.
Okay, thanks. Ron?
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that, but, there's nothing saying that continuing to have your dreams and continuing to move towards what you want to have is something that might fit within some of these federal guidelines that are coming down the funding programs. Yesterday, Senator Chuck Schumer announced $1 million for Wi-Fi for Livingston County. Okay, and nobody saw that coming. And I'm just basically saying that if this infrastructure act gets approved, who knows what kind of amenities might be there that would warrant moving towards something here.
No, I agree. You just never know. Okay, Chauncey, anything? Doug? Tim?
No.
John, anything? You good? Okay, other than the fact that it was an interesting PRC, and I appreciate the staff when we sit in on those, it can be very interesting.
Sometimes heated.
Sometimes heated, sometimes funny. With that, I'll, motion by Tim, seconded by Chauncey to adjourn, all in favor? Aye. All right.